Welcome to the install video for the GPR V4 Stabilizer Kit. Today we'll be installing one of these kits onto a brand new KTM 300 XCW, but you'll want to keep in mind the install will vary with each bike, so it's important to follow along with the set of instructions provided with your stabilizer. Each GPR Stabilizer Kit comes complete with everything needed to install it onto your bike, including the stabilizer post and frame mount, a new handlebar mount, the stabilizer itself, and any other hardware necessary to complete the install. A stabilizer is a great addition to any bike no matter what terrain you're riding. For some riders, this is the first aftermarket part installed after purchasing a new bike. It can benefit the rider at all speeds, but it especially helps at high speeds to prevent headshake and help keep you going straight down the trail. So to install this stabilizer, we're going to start by first removing the headlight from this bike. After we have that unclipped and out of the way, we're also going to unbolt this bike's computer from the triple clamp. This piece uses 2 bolts to mount, and after we pulled those, we're going to just kind of let it hang there for now. The next step is to remove the handlebars so they're out of the way. To do that, we'll loosen and remove the 4 bolts from those bar clamps. Go ahead and sit those bolts in the top clamps aside, and then we'll just remove those bars and basically rest them on the front fender. Now we can loosen that steering stem pinch bolt, along with the 2 pinch bolts holding the top of each fork on both sides of that top triple clamp. A quick tip to make this process easier is to loop a strap to the front wheel and up around the frame to keep the lower triple clamp and forks from falling out of the frame after we remove that top clamp. So with our strap now in place, we can loosen and remove that top steering stem nut. And keep in mind this nut will be replaced by the provided nut from GPR. So now we'll carefully work that top clamp up off the steering stem and both forks. With that removed, it's going to reveal an O-ring and a dust cover. We need to remove that O-ring along with the dust cover, and underneath that you'll see the dust seal, and we'll remove this as well. GPR has provided us with a white plastic dust cover to replace that stock one, but we need to reuse both the stock dust seal and that top O-ring, so we'll keep track of those. And now we can install that post and mount onto the frame by removing the pinch bolt, and we used a flat blade screwdriver to spread the clamp and slide it down onto the frame. It's important to make sure the post and mount is perfectly centered on the backbone of the frame. And then we'll secure that mount in place by reinstalling that pinch bolt and tightening it down. After that, we can reinstall that dust seal, make sure it seats all the way in place. And again on this model, we'll be installing the supplied white dust cover, and then the stock O-ring will go on top of that. Once that's all assembled, we'll reinstall that top triple clamp onto the forks in the steering stem. You may have to tap it a little bit to get it to seat down into place, and it's important that it's sitting at the exact same height that it was before. After that, we'll install the supplied steering stem nut with some medium strength Loctite. Go ahead and thread that on, and then it's important that you torque this to factory specs, which in this case is 8.9 foot-pounds. After that, we'll reinstall that top steering stem pinch bolt with some medium strength thread locker, and then torque that to factory spec, which for this bike is 12.5 foot-pounds. And next comes the triple clamp pinch bolts, and for this bike we need to torque these upper pinch bolts to 12.5 foot-pounds. Now that we've done that, we're ready to replace these bar clamps. So we'll start by loosening the bar clamp bolt on each side, and these can be tough to loosen up because they'll have thread locker on the threads. So once you have both those loose, back them all the way out, and then we'll remove the top clamps from the provided GPR bar clamp and mount. When you pull those stock clamps from the triple clamp, you'll notice the stock clamps are mounted in the rearmost mounting holes. The GPR bar mount bolts are going to need to be installed in the forwardmost holes in order for the stabilizer to be successfully installed. So we'll sit that new mount into place and apply a little medium strength thread locker to those new bolts, and then go ahead and install them. This bike calls for 29.5 foot-pounds to torque these bolts down. And now that we've got all those bolts tight, we can remove that strap supporting the front end of the bike. The next part of this install is to set the pin height. And our goal here is to have the top of the pin and the top of the stabilizer arm sitting flush together. As you can see, this pin is too tall right now, so to lower it we'll simply remove the stabilizer and go ahead and gently tap on the top of the pin with a hammer. Doing that will slowly lower the pin. If we check it again, you can see we're still sitting just a little too high. So we'll give it another good tap, then check it once more. And it looks like it's just right, so we'll go ahead and install the stabilizer, slide that arm down over the pin we just installed. We'll install both those provided mounting bolts and tighten them down evenly. And at this point you'll want to check and make sure the stabilizer is working. It should feel stiffer moving it back and forth, but it should be a smooth action from one side to the other. So now we can reinstall those handlebars. And on this bike it was necessary to cut off that stock bar pad in order to clear the top of the stabilizer. So once that's out of the way, we can sit those bars down into the clamps and install both top pieces along with those 4 bolts. Make sure your bars are centered and in the desired position before you go ahead and tighten them down. Our manual calls for 14.8 foot-pounds for these 4 bolts. If you chose to, you could still run that stock bar pad by leaving out that bottom piece and then running new zip ties to secure it in place. And the next step is to reinstall the computer, and GPR has provided us with spacers if we need to space it out away from the stabilizer a little bit. As you can see, this one was close, but we were able to remount it without using those spacers. So we'll go ahead and snug both those bolts down. And after that, we're going to check the clearance of the wires and cables as we turn the bars from one side to the other. As you can see, some of these wires are rubbing on the front of that post mount. To fix this, we'll simply cut the zip tie that's holding the wires, and then carefully fold those wires down and install a new zip tie lower to hold all those wires down away from that mount. Now you can see everything has plenty of clearance. The last thing we need to do is reinstall the headlight, and then we're ready to ride. If you've never ridden with a stabilizer before, it's important that you start at the lowest setting until you get used to riding with it, and then continue to dial it in from there. For more information about the GPR V4 Stabilizer Kit, please visit our website www.rockymountainatvmc.com. Thanks for watching.